Gervonta "Tank" Davis has never been shy about expressing how he feels toward Jake Paul, the YouTube personality turned boxer who continues to make headlines. In the past, Davis dismissed any possibility of fighting Paul unless he reached the level of legends like Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, or Canelo Alvarez. For Tank, boxing has always been about legacy, respect, and achievements earned inside the ring, not social media stunts or internet popularity. He made it clear in several interviews that Jake was little more than an Instagram fighter, someone with limited skills who looked good online but had not proven himself against true competition. At one point, Davis even described him as overweight, unskilled, and incapable of competing at a world-class level. Despite these statements, the narrative took a surprising turn when it was announced that Gervonta Davis would, in fact, be fighting Jake Paul on November 14th in Atlanta, Georgia. The announcement shocked fans because Davis had previously been linked to a rematch with Lamont Roach Jr., a serious contender with 25 wins, only one loss, and 2 draws. Their first fight ended in a controversial draw on March 1st, and many believed a rematch was the natural next step. Instead, Davis opted to step into the ring with Jake Paul, a decision that has left boxing circles debating whether Tank is pursuing legacy or simply chasing a massive payday. In his initial comments about the fight, Davis once again dismissed Jake Paul's abilities. He said Jake cannot compete with him, repeating that Paul is an Instagram boxer rather than a real fighter. At the same time, Davis admitted Paul has a good image and charisma, even joking that he wouldn't want to leave his girlfriend around Jake because of his looks and personality. Still, Davis stressed that boxing is about levels, and Jake's fast hands and social media skills don't matter when compared to someone who has been fighting since childhood and building a professional career at the highest level. To Tank, the matchup would not be fair competition, as Jake simply doesn't possess the knowledge, precision, and experience to stand across from him in a legitimate fight. This has caused a wave of criticism, because many recall Davis previously rejecting the very idea of such a fight. By once insisting that Paul would need to become a legend before facing him, Tank set a high standard for what it means to earn a fight. Now, however, he has accepted the match. To critics, this shows that money ultimately influenced Davis's decision. For years, he claimed legacy was more important than spectacle, but his agreement to face Paul has some saying he abandoned his ideals in exchange for a big check. Shakur Stevenson, an undefeated and respected fighter himself, gave his thoughts on the situation. Stevenson acknowledged Jake's size advantage, pointing out that Paul is naturally much bigger than Davis. However, he dismissed the idea that this size difference could impact the outcome. For Stevenson, boxing is about skill, timing, intelligence, and speed rather than raw weight. He argued that Davis has all of these attributes in abundance, making him the clear favorite. According to Stevenson, Paul's size might give him some physical strength, but Tank's explosiveness, accuracy, and power would overwhelm him. Stevenson also stated that Jake, despite his training, hasn't reached the level of someone who has dedicated their life to boxing since childhood. British heavyweight Dave Allen shared his disappointment with the fight, calling it another unnecessary spectacle. He felt Davis had already built a strong career and should either focus on real, competitive fights or retire with his reputation intact. Allen expressed concern that events like this diminish boxing's authenticity, turning it into a sideshow rather than a sport rooted in honor. For him, true competition should involve serious fighters testing themselves against each other, not popular names clashing for entertainment value. On the other hand, some voices in the boxing world have found silver linings. Veteran fighter Gabe Rosado said one of the most interesting parts of the Davis versus Paul card is that the undercard will feature exclusively women's boxing matches. In his view, this is a groundbreaking opportunity for female fighters, giving them unprecedented exposure to a global audience. With a massive platform like Netflix streaming the fight, millions of viewers would see women's boxing highlighted in a way rarely achieved before. Rosado argued that even if the main event is criticized as a spectacle, the overall impact could be positive for the sport by elevating female athletes. As analysts and commentators continue to weigh in, many compare this fight to previous exhibition-style events such as Jake Paul's match with Mike Tyson. Those events weren't about proving who the best boxer was, but about delivering entertainment and capturing public attention. For the Davis-Paul fight, some experts argue fans shouldn't mistake it for a serious clash between equals. Instead, it should be seen as a spectacle designed to sell tickets, generate headlines, and create buzz, even if the sporting legitimacy is questionable. Questions also surround the weight classes involved. Davis fights as a lightweight, where the limit is around 135 pounds, while Jake Paul has fought as high as cruiserweight, with limits near 200 pounds. This creates a massive gap of 60 to 70 pounds. Even if they agree to a catchweight, the difference in natural size and frame remains striking. Jake has previously fought at 185, and some wonder whether Davis could even come close to that weight. The issue of fairness, safety, and competitive balance becomes more complicated in this context. Some believe this is why the fight may end up being labeled as an exhibition rather than an official sanctioned bout. Former champion Carl Froch voiced his blunt disapproval, calling the fight an absolute joke. Froch has long been known for his honesty, and in this case he argued that Davis should focus on legitimate challenges rather than circus-style fights. He said that Jake Paul's involvement in boxing should remain outside the boundaries of elite fighters who have spent their lives building professional records. To Froch, Tank's choice to face Paul undermines the credibility of the sport. At the same time, promoter Eddie Hearn added a different perspective by floating the idea that after the Jake Paul fight, Gervonta Davis could face Shakur Stevenson. According to Hearn, this sequence makes financial and competitive sense. The fight with Jake would generate mainstream interest and revenue, while a follow-up against Stevenson would satisfy purists who want to see Tank in a serious matchup. Hearn argued that Stevenson has the skill and discipline to truly test Davis, and such a bout would carry significant weight for the lightweight division. Meanwhile, Lamont Roach Jr. did not hold back his frustration. He accused Davis of ducking him by avoiding their rematch. To Roach, fighters like himself who worked their way through the rankings are being sidelined while Jake Paul, a non-traditional opponent, jumps into the spotlight. Roach argued that boxing should reward dedication, skill, and hard work rather than celebrity and internet fame. For him and many fans, Davis's choice to fight Jake was a betrayal of boxing tradition. Public reaction has been deeply divided. Some fans are excited about the entertainment factor, eager to watch two polarizing personalities collide in the ring. Others feel disappointed, saying Tank's decision undermines his previous words about legacy and honor. Even many of Davis's loyal fans, who normally defend him online, have been uncharacteristically quiet since the announcement. This silence suggests a level of discomfort even among his supporters. The financial side cannot be ignored. Both Davis and Paul stand to make enormous sums of money from the event. In that sense, it mirrors Jake's previous bouts with big names such as Tyson, which were criticized by purists but drew huge audiences and paydays. For Davis, who has hinted at retirement in the past, this fight may represent one last massive cash-out before he leaves the sport. Critics argue this comes at the cost of his reputation, while supporters say every fighter has the right to secure their financial future. As the event approaches, boxing continues to wrestle with the broader implications of such fights. On one hand, spectacle bouts bring attention, new audiences, and financial growth. On the other, they risk turning the sport into entertainment first and competition second. Gervonta Davis versus Jake Paul embodies this tension perfectly, a celebrated champion stepping outside traditional paths to face a social media star in a fight that is more about business and buzz than rankings and titles. Whether fans see it as a disgrace or an exciting new chapter, there's no denying the fight has captured attention across the sports world. Some call it a mismatch, pointing to the weight gap and experience difference. Others insist the unpredictability of combat sports means anything can happen, even if Davis is favored. What's clear is that the bout has sparked passionate discussion and polarized opinions. For the boxing purists, Tank should be defending titles, fighting top contenders, and cementing his place in history by taking on rivals like Stevenson or Roach. For the entertainment-driven audience, seeing Davis and Paul square off is an irresistible spectacle that blends celebrity, controversy, and athleticism. Either way, the fight highlights the changing face of boxing in the modern era, where fame and money sometimes hold as much weight as belts and records. In the end, whether this event is remembered as a money grab or a moment that opened new doors for the sport, It reflects the ongoing struggle between legacy and business in professional boxing. Gervonta Davis's decision to fight Jake Paul may not align with his earlier words about only facing legends, but it has ensured one thing: people are talking about boxing, debating its future, and waiting to see what happens when skill collides with spectacle on November 14th.